Well, good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's doing okay this morning on a Tuesday before a short week here, trying to get 5 days of work into 3 days. So good luck, everyone. My name is Dave Goldschmidt. I'm the general manager here at Tires to Green Recycling. Just wanted to pull the veil back a little bit on tire recycling here in Colorado. Um, we are currently located at the Tire Mountain site. If you guys are familiar with the Tire Mountain site here in Hudson. So back in 2020, we purchased 15 acres of land from that site. And now we operate independently from CH2E, or which was previously known as Magnum Duar. So yeah, we're on site now for about 3 years. We're a startup business, right? So that million tire production flow that we're going to have this year is huge for us. Last year we did about 400,000 tires, so it's quite an increase from last year and where we're at. Anyways, just a little bit about who we are here. So first of all, what we try to do is we try to make sure that what we're trying to do is make that circular economy with tires, right? Tires are notorious for being a problem everywhere, not only in country but on the planet, right? Every year in the United States, we generate about 300 million tires, so about one tire per person. Colorado's a little bit over that, so we generate about 1.25 tires per person. So we're on schedule to do anywhere from 7 to 9 million tires every year, just based on the economy, how things are going. But we're going to do about a million tires this year. So what we're actually doing, with that circular economy is we're making raw materials for manufacturing in instances such as pre-tread and rub erosion, where they're making, all kinds of different products out of our raw materials here. Some of those other end products we'll get into a little bit later, but before I got into tires, it was, hey, Les Schwab or Discount Tire, here are my tires. Good luck with them. See you later, right? But there's actually quite a huge manufacturing process and industry behind tires in general. Some of the things that the industry does, when you're reclaiming rubber, there's a process called pyrolysis, which is the reverse engineering of that tire. Which what you're doing is you're taking that tire, you're heating up to certain elements, to certain heats, and you're drawing, okay, carbon black at 183 degrees. Okay, next we're going to put this into a kiln to 187 degrees, and we're going to get this type of petroleum out of it, right? So that would be one of the instances that you use with tires. Also, alternative fuels, so cement kilns or coal burning plants, paper pulp mills, things along those lines. They can substitute their coal feedstock with tires. And generally, they burn hotter and cleaner than coal does. And I say that with a grain of salt. Cleaner doesn't necessarily translate when you've got a higher sulfur emission. So that's the only back or draw side drawn to using tires in a cement kiln, right? So they do emit a little bit more sulfur, but if you've got the good scrubbers on there, don't really generally have a problem with that. Some of the other things that we pull out of those tires would be fiber. So in a passenger tire, you're looking at the contents in that tire. You're looking at rubber, steel, and fiber. That fiber or nylon gets then used again in products such as carpeting, things along those lines. And steel wire. So I mean, you're looking at 20 to 25% of your weight in that tire is made up of just steel. So what we do is we extract all that steel out, through our process. We get to 99.99% steel contamination free. And then we turn around and we recycle that material again. We use local companies here in Denver to basically take that wire and make new billets out of it. And then obviously ground tire rubber. We're making all kinds of mulch, crumb, powders, different various products like that. So how do we position ourselves? We're not just a tire dumping company. We do all kinds of things, right? We're not a landfill. We're not here to just take tires. We are a manufacturing plant, right? So if tires come on site and we don't do anything with them, it doesn't help us out. So we have to turn these products into something else. Whether that's anywhere from a TDF chip or an ADC chip, anywhere down to powder, right? We have to find the end markets for that, and that's honestly one of the biggest hurdles that Colorado has as a whole. The product end market right now is primarily used in burning, right? Along with 60 to 70% of all the tires across the nation are used for burning. That is trending down, right? So some of the higher value products are coming up a little bit, but just in general, primarily the tires are burned. So we're trying to build a model here in Colorado that gets away from that, so that we can have a higher value product offering. So some of the things that what we do, environmental issues, right? So I mean, you guys have all heard about, oh no, we've got Zika, somewhere going around here, some kind of problems like that. Those generally do spur and start in tires, right? I mean, when you're looking at a tire pile, generally the tires will hold water, and those waters are perfect breeding grounds for mosquitoes and other pests like that. When we're producing these recycled products, we're also conserving resources. You don't have to get a natural rubber. You can use our products in lieu of some of those natural products more generally. Energy savings, again, if you're not burning coal, again, you've got the ability to turn somewhat of a problem into a solution. Again, we're trying to move away from that as much as we can. And then economic growth. There's a lot of new industries that can use waste tire products. And it's funny because every time I go into Home Depot, for example, I look at a product and I'm like, well, why can't this be made out of recycled rubber? Or the back of this, why can't this be made out of recycled rubber? Right. So it's about finding those economic paths and finding the industries that can actually use the products that we're making. So yeah, the environmental impact, here in Colorado, a couple of years ago, there were a couple of main monofills, and the monofill is just something that holds only tires. In the state, a few years ago, it was estimated there were 60 million waste tires in the state of Colorado, which is by far the most in any one single state, right? So we sit on one of the monofills, or we share a property line. So Tire Mountain is a monofill, and it's estimated there's about 40 million waste tires out on this site. So part of our process and what we want to do is, as we continue to build and develop our markets, we want to be able to take tires out of that monofill and process them into, a beneficial good and kind of get rid of that waste. Tires do contain valuable materials like rubber, steel, and fabric. Like I said, the rubber we use for all different types of applications. Steel just gets recycled, and then fabric, we can use in carpeting and things along those lines. But really, one of the main things is, diversity. You've got all these different product sizes, these different specs, and what you want to do is you want to make sure you've got a home for everything, right? We're not making just chicken breast, right? We've got the whole chicken, right? So you've got to find a home for basically everything that you're doing with it. Again, energy savings, instead of producing, new materials, we're able to use some of our products, even in, say, a new tire. You can use some powder rubber from our used tires and put those back into new tires, and you can cut down on some of the new virgin costs. And then a reduction of illegal dumping and fires, right? I mean, obviously everybody's heard of, a tire fire and how dangerous they can be. One of our biggest concerns all the time is, hey, let's make sure machines are running cool enough. Let's make sure we, are doing our appropriate PMs and making sure that equipment is, in proper running order so that we don't run into these issues of fires and things along those lines. Those fires can run for months, right? The last fire that I heard of was here out in Hudson, funny enough, back in 2020, over that summer. I'm sure you guys all remember, but that fire burned for only 2 days. However, 3 months later, they were still finding hot spots 30 feet underground, right? So tires are no joke when they set on fire. And then again, some of the economic benefits, we create jobs. We're out in an enterprise zone here in Weld County. Over the last 2 years, we've created 25 jobs just on recycling, whether that's going to pick up tires or that's some people that are processing tires, or even something as simple as just sweeping and keeping the shop clean, right? So all these things really do play a role in how we become more efficient every single day and really try to attack that tire problem that we have here in Colorado. So some of our best practices here, what we're trying to do is we're just trying to meet industry standards, right? What we are ultimately doing here is we're breaking down a product that's not meant to be broken down, right? Honestly, metal is easier to break down than tires, right? So I mean, the PM and maintenance scheduling that we have is very, very rigorous, right? There's going to be every day we're checking this, we're making sure that machines are running properly, blades are sharpened. You have an unsharpened blade that gets broken in a machine, for example. Well, that runs through the whole system, right? So you've got pieces of metal that are being chopped up by other pieces of thick metal at that point, and just causing chaos. So we really have to be on top of the maintenance and the PM scheduling as far as our overall production and being successful. If our machines aren't running, it doesn't make sense for us, right? So just a little bit about how we run our process here, right? So there's a couple different ways. If you have scrap tires, you can bring them to our facility. We have a nominal rate that we charge. Alternatively, if you are a volume, producer of waste tires, we will schedule. We've got a fleet of trucks that we can schedule to come out to your facility, pick up your waste tires, and bring them back to our facility where we can sort them and get them shredded up and made into products. So once tires arrive on site, if it's a semi tire, we can, what we'll do is we'll actually take the sidewall off of that tire. So in a semi tire, that bead wire that attaches to the rim is about the size of a quarter, right? If you look at a quarter, there's a bead wire about that thick all the way around that tire. So what we do is we cut that whole sidewall out. And we actually do use that sidewall. There's several places that we send these sidewalls for silage. Alternatively, if you guys look on the side of the road and you guys are driving, you see the big construction barrels, you look at the bottom of those, typically 9 out of 10 times those are sidewalls at the bottom of those, right? So next time you're out, take a look and recognize, yeah, hey, something's going on with these tires. So once the tires get to our facility, we take them from the sidewall cutter. If it's a semi tire, if it's a passenger tire, we'll throw them right into our machine and we'll start making our primary chip size. Our primary chip size is a 4-inch TDF chip. Right. So again, like I was saying, a TDF is a tire-derived fuel. So the companies that we work with, like GCC, for example, out of Pueblo, they'll take that chip, that 4-inch chip, and they'll burn that in their cement kiln. And that's our primary shredding size. The next step that we do is we take a bunch of that steel out. So at our first grinding process, we're taking about 90% of that steel out, right? So we can take that whole tire and we can separate the steel and the fiber from that tire almost immediately. And then from there, what we're doing is we're grabbing the another processing portion, and we make various sizes from a 1/2-inch playground mulch all the way down to a 40 mesh minus powder that used in rubberized concrete or rubberized asphalt. The further you break this material down, obviously the more cost there is associated with it and the higher value product that we can get out of it, right? So the more that we can control that spec size, the better it is as an industry as a whole. And I can kind of get into that a little bit more with Pretred and how they've graciously so worked with us to find the right spec sizes for us and for them, right? So it's about there's a little bit of a balance there as well. Quality control and standards. So like I was saying, with Royal over there, what we're doing is we're trying to make this specific spec size that they use in their molding products and some of their other instances that they use the materials. But even if it's off by a millimeter in size, this product may not work for them. So there's been a lot of back and forth to make sure that, okay, the product is the right size. Is this steel free? Is there nylon in there, right? Because with all these different contaminants, that hurts the manufacturing process for our ultimate end user. So our goal here is to make a consistent standard product that when they order, they know that they're going to get the same thing every single time because they know that it works in their process. And then education and awareness, on the backside here, that's really one of the biggest hurdles that we have here. Again, before I got into tires, it was, okay, Les Schwab, have fun with these tires. I don't know what you're going to do with them, but I'm done with them, right? So, what we try to do is we're trying to educate. We're trying to get the awareness portion of, what we can do, what the options are, and becoming a reliable vendor. There are not very many companies in the state even that do what we do as far as breaking down tires. And then as far as breaking materials down into powder materials, there's nobody that does what we do, right? So if you're looking for a powderized material, you're typically going out to Liberty out in Utah, you're going to Gainan in Texas, or even you have to go out to Indiana and NTech for these other companies that actually make these products. And these are creme de la creme, right? These are the guys that have been around for a while that know what they're doing, and we're trying to meet those standards. So just wanted to touch a little bit on the legislative breakdown that we currently have. And we can get into this a little bit more, Royal. I know at some point we did want to speak about this, but currently the breakdown for the legislation rebates are these three tiers. So the first tier is just tire-derived fuel and crumb rubber. The second tier is molded goods and rubber mulch, and the third tier would be large chips like alternative daily cover, which Republic Service would use it for alternative daily cover in their landfill, and then civil engineering chips. And ultimately, I think we'd like to see this rebate program, change just a little bit. In my mind, I see this as, the more that you break this material down, the more cost is associated with breaking that material down, and the higher value product that's going to be, right? So right now, for example, with tire-derived fuel, that's a 4-inch chip that gets paid out $80, whereas a molded product could be down to a 2mm or 4mm product, and that's a huge jump in size, right? And you get half of the rebate that you would get for a larger chip, right? So to me, it does seem a little backwards as far as how the industry or how CDPHE does have this program set up. So we would like to see a little bit of change in that. And then I wanted to go over some of the end markets that we are currently servicing. So again, it's cement kilns, where they're substituting 15, 18, 20% of their, coal feedstock with tires. Landfills, Republic, like I said, they will use it in their landfill for alternative daily cover. We make playground mulch. So again, that's 99.9% steel-free products. We do have an IPEMA certification for that material. So that's industry standard, third-party tester that tests size and steel content, et cetera. And then molded goods, such as Pretred, they're making their barriers. Again, molded products. A synthetic turf. So when you guys are watching like a soccer game or a football game and you see the black beads flying up, that's typically rubber that's put on that field. And then rubberized asphalt and concrete. Again, that's going to be a powder product, 20 mesh minus, a 40 mesh minus product that is being put into those asphalt and concrete mixes to create a more durable product. And then again, just here some a little bit high level on some of the details, I guess. But with rubberized roads and asphalt, it's a noise dampener, right? So it will make a quieter road. It does make a longer lasting road, and repairs are seamlessly faster and easier. With sports surfaces, we also do produce the running track fields, right? So we're working with several companies that put these fields down, and they're using hundreds of thousands of pounds per track to make those sports fields. And then construction and building materials. I know that Pretred and rubber erosion, working in that arena there to create different kinds of blocks, things along those lines. When you're molding this stuff together, they do create some unique properties, such as drainage. You've got a really good drainage property typically if you're not condensing materials very tightly. And then you can move back down. You can actually get back into automotive industries here by creating some of the smaller powder products that can go back into tires and some of the plastics, things along those lines. And just a few of the other markets there. And then ultimately what we are trying to do is, get consumer goods, whether it's a horse mat or a playground mulch, something that an ultimate, end user consumer can use. And then obviously energy, which would be TDF, our tire-derived fuel, and cement kilns, paper mills, things along those lines. And so, yeah, just an overview again, what we're doing is, taking that whole tire, and we're making all these different products and extracting as much as we can out of it to make the best standardized products that we can, making sure that customers understand what they're getting and making sure it's a quality product, anywhere from crumb to steel to, carpeting, whatever it might be. So that's my presentation. I hope you guys learned at least a little bit here about tires that we have here in Colorado.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Wow, there's a lot to tire recycling. A lot of layers. So thank you for that. I want to now introduce Royal Rich. He's the sales manager for Pretred, a Colorado-based manufacturing company. Pretred makes barrier products from 95% recycled materials out of waste tires that are both environmentally friendly and sustainable. 1 mile of Pretred barriers diverts over 1.4 million pounds of tires from the landfill or from being burned, while reducing over 5.5 million pounds of carbon compared to concrete. Pretred barriers are the most cost competitive, come in great color options, and are fully recyclable into themselves. That's pretty cool. Royal has been in sales management and development for over 20 years. He's a Colorado native. He's actually my neighbor, which we found out. He is alumni of CSU in Fort Collins and enjoys exploring Rocky Mountains with his fly rod, coaching his 2 sons in football, and planning his next travel adventure with his family. So with no further ado, Royal, if you want to share your screen and get started, we're excited to hear you.
Good job, Dave. I like the analogy of the chicken breast, right? We're not just making chicken breast. We got to deal with the whole chicken here. That was good. Quick shout out to Kara for getting us introduced to Recycle Colorado and getting us part of this presentation with Pinion. And also Liz Chapman. She's been a huge supporter, and we're excited to say that we are new members of Recycle Colorado as a company. So thank you to both of you. Yeah, funny story, Becca. We're neighbors now, but Chandra and I, who's also on the call, used to play hide and seek in the neighborhood growing up. So she was my neighbor as a child, and you're my neighbor now later in life. So
yeah, we grew up right next door to each other. Yep.
That's awesome.
Small world.
All right, so I'm gonna get going here. I'm gonna start with a brief video, but we'll just jump in here. So yeah, you didn't hear it, but we are a high volume, high value solution to recycled tires. Obviously, as Dave mentioned, and as we are aware of, being part of Recycle Colorado, tires are a huge problem, not just here in Colorado, but in the US and globally. We have about 300 million tires discarded annually in the US. That's growing rapidly, even based on like EV vehicles, which are heavier, go through tires a lot quicker. Top disposal methods are burning and burying them in landfill. Playground and turf reuse is less than about 1% of the recycled material, and there's talks of that going away as well. So we have come up with a new solution. We take about 75 tires and make them into 1 6-foot linear foot barrier product. Each facility on one manufacturing line can recycle about 2 million tires annually. So yeah, recyclable into themselves, 100% sustainable. We recently did a carbon study and found that our product is about 283% less carbon than concrete. We've got soft, pleasing colors, no sharp edges, so it's a very safe product and environmentally safe and friendly as well. So I mentioned the carbon reduction. 1 mile of concrete barriers versus a mile of our barriers reduces about 5.5 million pounds of carbon. I'm sure, especially those of us in northern Colorado, see those miles and miles of concrete barriers being used. We're pretty excited to start replacing those. So comparing to plastic and concrete products, we are circular. We're a low maintenance product. They're going to be a lot more durable than concrete. They don't crack and chip. You don't have to fill them with water or antifreeze, like the plastic water fill barrier. Obviously, the CO2 footprint that I mentioned, and then just the flexibility of the product, being able to make different sizes, shapes, and colors out of it that are pleasing not just to project environments, but also aesthetically pleasing to the natural landscape and environment around the barrier product. We're currently in phase 1, so we have a general purpose static barrier being produced here in Aurora. We're using those products for perimeter control, erosion management. We've done some ballistic applications. We do a lot of event management, just general construction use right now. We'll be going into roadway testing first part of next year. and that will get us into low-speed roadway for areas where you would traditionally see the plastic water-filled barricade being used. And then later next year, as we expand sizes of our product and some of the features, we'll go on to high-speed roadway. And that'll be all the I-25 improvement projects that you see, all the way down to stuff happening on 34, up in Estes and all that. So capacity currently of our facility is about 40 barriers per day. Each barrier, as I mentioned, uses about 75 tires. So we go through a lot of material. We've done a carbon study recently, done some ballistics testing with Denver Police Department. We've got our low-speed roadway testing coming up, and we just produced our first 8-foot barrier, which was exciting. So we're under construction at the moment. We're expanding our facility, adding on about 50% of what we had before. And then going into 2024, we will ramp up to about 100 barrier per day production. We'll start going after that high-speed roadway testing. There's a lot of applications for this product at airports. We've got some jet blast testing in the works, how we can incorporate other waste, and then making even larger barriers yet. So by the time we get to a 10-foot barrier, we hope to be using somewhere around 120 tires per barrier. And then obviously with tires being a global problem, we will be looking for expansion locations outside of Colorado, but proud to say we are a Colorado-based company and plan to stay. One thing that came up on our radar in 2022 is we were being recognized as one of the 5 top construction startups to watch in 2022. So that was a pretty neat accolade. They analyzed 2,500 different startups throughout the globe, and we were called out as one of 2 in the US as being one to keep an eye on. So this just goes over again kind of the overall use of the product. I forgot to update this slide. It says 70 waste tires per barrier. We've added 2 inches of height to the barrier, which actually adds 5 tires. So crazy how 2 inches of height to our product packs in another 5 passenger tires. But 1.5 million pounds of waste tire material gets diverted from landfills when we build 1 barrier mile of our product, and reducing over 95%. Again, didn't update that slide, but it's actually negative 283% to concrete. So on the right side there, you can see some of the colors of products that we make, as well as some of the different environments that we're using them in currently. And the colors, this is a shot from out back of our facility here in Aurora. You can see the different colors that we can make. We've got camo barriers in there, some blends of colored material, also solid colored barriers. The nice thing about the solid colored barriers is the entire product is colored. So if you do have any nicks, chips, cracks, bumps, it's not going to show through like it would, you know, with the color still being inside of it. We also do an exterior paint application for high visibility. The product's great for mounting things to it, whether that be signage, reflectors, company logos, and that type of thing. This is some site pictures for you of our product being used in various places. This is a PCL construction site down in Greenwood Village. You can see that initially they essentially made a guardrail solution out of the barriers and ultimately turned it into a fill pit. Some up at Red Rocks. If you're ever up at the top lot up by the restrooms, they keep them up there and then use them for temporary deployment to close off parking lots and roadways. We were a Greeley Stampede sponsor this last year. So if you were at the Greeley Stampede, you may have seen some of these scattered throughout the Stampede. We're working with Vandermeer Speedway currently on their new facility that will hopefully be out here by us, out by the airport, to develop a barrier product for use at Vandermeer Speedway. We can do embossed logos in the product. So when we first started making these, we had this cool Colorado Mountain logo that we did in all the barriers. And just some of the other applications. So there's some mounted reflectors on the product, some of the different colors. And I did want to jump in quickly to rubber erosion. So under our roof, we also have a company that makes erosion control products out of recycled scrap tires. Different from our product, they use, in a lot of cases, a larger size chip, and we'll get into some of that here in a little bit about the difference in granule size. But rubber erosion makes some of these wattles that you probably see around. They use those on various Excel projects. They're being used out at DIA or DEN right now on some projects there. Construction projects throughout Colorado and the region. Make mat products that allow for water flow to go into drainage areas while capturing sediment. So that's one of those products that uses a larger size chip. Inlet and grate protection wattles and rubber check dams. So essentially captures all of the sediment and then allows water flow around to make its way down to the drainage way. Strips for coming in and out of construction sites. The common one you probably see out there is the big yellow cone looking product called a FOD. This product's similar to that in that it just knocks off all of the dirt and all of the rocks and stuff off of the vehicles coming in and out of construction sites. And then I wanted to jump in a little bit to some of what Dave was talking about. So the EPA is recommending, kind of a high value, high volume solution for recycling. In the state of Colorado, we find that a lot of times we're on the other side of the spectrum there, more on the disposal or recover side. So we really wanted to shine some light on that and be as much of a partner as we can to Recycle Colorado to highlight some of the revamp needed in the tire world. This is a pretty powerful slide here. So Colorado, and as Dave alluded to, is incentivizing burning and burying more than anything. And so when it comes to actual high value uses like Pretred has, it's pretty tough to get state money when a lot of that money is being taken by the guys that are burning and burying tires. There is a use for that, product in certain markets, but for the most part, we feel that needs to be kind of flip-flopped and reversed to align more with what the EPA is looking for from the states in reference to supportive tire materials. So I'll just kind of let this settle in. You guys can take a quick look. Most of this data was pulled from CDPHE, but on the left side is the actual uses, and on the right side is where the money is going. So you can see there that the bury and burn is very heavy. Also, based on Dave's slides, the incentive is heavier for them as well. So they're getting paid more to do those things with them, which is the opposite of what the EPA is recommending that we be doing as a state. So something to think about as we go into the potential sunsetting of the tire rebate program and a potential rehaul of RREO and FRWD grants. How do we as a state approach this the right way? I mentioned the Colorado tire rebate is set to sunset in 2024, so we expect there to be some sort of revamp to that program if it's continued. I'm not sure if anyone on the call is aware of EPR laws, but EPR laws are very common in Europe and Canada. Connecticut took the first step to bring EPR laws into the US. They passed a bill earlier this year, which is going to bring EPR into Connecticut. And as we typically see, will probably fall on a lot of the more progressive states following Connecticut. So something that you guys should look into if you're not familiar with it. Essentially, it puts the responsibility on the producers rather than the state recyclers. That can be good and bad, right? It all depends how we manage that type of a program. Pretred is trying to be a leader with Connecticut in helping bring that program along, but definitely something to get on our radar here as a group.
So Royal, Liz, you have your hand up? Did you want to make a comment?
I just wanted a little clarification, Royal. The slide you had a couple, was it the last slide? Yeah. Could you explain the differences? So in the slides on the left-hand side, the red circle, you've got burn 60.4%, but then you've got a square that calls out 90.2. Could you explain the difference in those numbers?
The 90.2 is the amount of subsidies that were put towards burning tires in the state out of 100% total. So we burned 60% of the tires in our state in 2021. The subsidy money that went towards that was 90% of the pile.
So the diagram on the left-hand side that's got the red is what actually happened to the tires. And
Yep.
then the diagram on the right is where the funding went. I see.
Where the
Okay,
state funding went towards. Yep.
thank you. I was confused.
Yeah. So that brings me to my next slide. Grant funds are limited, and obviously the subsidies are incentivizing burning and burying of tires for tire-derived fuel and alternative daily cover. As Dave also mentioned, crumb rubber has extra processing requirements. Do our grants in the state support folks like Dave trying to make crumb rubber when that's something that it's harder for him to do, and he has a bigger demand in the state to produce larger chip sizes for TDF and ADC. I think that's something we really need to look at and ask ourselves if that's the right way to be supporting processors in the state and then ultimately end users of the product. We're also finding for ourselves that end use products made out of scrap tires are in most cases first of its kind. So there's a lot of testing that goes into getting those on active job sites, especially in safety scenarios where we're trying to keep a car from going over a barrier, coming back into traffic, and also trying to keep the passenger safe. There's a lot of testing that goes into that. And so we're just really asking the state to look at what goes into coming up with an innovative product like the Pretred barrier. And if the state subsidies and grants align with incentivizing companies like Pretred to continue finding those type of solutions. I was asked on kind of the practice call of what is the solution, right? And we don't know. We have our own ideas and certainly have selfish ideas that pertain to Pretred specifically or tires to green specifically. But overall, I think if we look at it from a big picture, we really need to try to align with the EPA recommendations of how we should be treating recycled materials. There are other states that are restricting recycling to exclude burning and burying of tires. I don't know if that's the right move. Obviously, we have, as Dave mentioned, 6 to 7 million tires to try to get through annually. And right now, Tires to Green is processing about 1 million of those. So what do we do with the rest? And that's a tough question for sure. But the tire rebate as a whole needs to be revamped to really incentivize some of these innovative solutions for that material rather than incentivizing the burning and burying of tires. So